We all know that person. Hey, maybe you are that person. While the rest of the world was dumping buckets of ice water over their heads, they just watched. When everyone was obsessed with a new show, they made a point to say they'd never seen it. We're talking about the people who resist trends, and it turns out there's some fascinating psychology behind why they do it. So what's really going on here? Let's get into it.
So picture this. A new sound, a new dance, some kind of challenge just explodes online. And all of a sudden, it feels like it's absolutely everywhere, right? It becomes this huge, shared moment that everyone seems to be a part of.
But not this person. They see the same videos, the same memes, but instead of feeling that pull to join in, they just keep scrolling. It's not that they're oblivious. The trend just doesn't land. It doesn't register as something they need to engage with. And the big question is, well, why is that?
To really get to the bottom of this, we have to look at what's happening inside their brain. Because for a lot of these folks, it's not just about being stubborn or trying to be different. Psychologists think it's actually a deep-seated, powerful defense mechanism kicking in.
And that mechanism has a name. It's called psychological reactance. Here's how it works. For some people, the more popular a trend gets, the more it starts to feel like social pressure. And when their brain senses that pressure as a threat to their own freedom and autonomy, it automatically triggers an impulse to do the exact opposite. It's the same reason that when someone tells you don't touch that button, all you can think about is touching the button.
So what's really going on here? Well, the brain literally goes into a fight-back mode. This isn't really a conscious decision, it's more of a gut-level, hardwired instinct to protect our sense of self. See, for people who really value their uniqueness, the idea of becoming too similar to everyone else can feel genuinely threatening. You can almost think of their identity as having its own immune system, and it sees popular trends as a kind of virus it needs to fight off.
Okay, but here's where we have to make a really important distinction, because not all trend resistors are created equal. In fact, they generally fall into two very different categories, and knowing the difference is key to understanding this whole thing.
So on one side, you have the contrarian. Their motivation is external. Their choices are made in reaction to what's popular. They dislike things specifically because everyone else likes them. Then, on the other side, you have the authentic non-participant. Their motivation is internal. Their choices are based on their own genuine interests and values, and they honestly could not care less what's trending. So here's the paradox. The contrarian is still being controlled by trends, they're just on the opposite end of the leash. The authentic non-participant, though, they barely even notice the leash exists.
This really gets to the core of it, especially for the contrarian. You might feel like this beacon of independence, but if every move you make is just the opposite of what's popular, you're not actually free. You're a shadow. A shadow can't exist without an object casting it. Wherever the object goes, the shadow follows. You're still letting the trend define you.
Now, you might think this is all a pretty modern thing, a product of our hyper-connected internet age. But it turns out, this instinct to go against the grain might have very real, very ancient evolutionary roots. It's a behavior that has both helped us survive and created some pretty interesting trade-offs today.
I mean, think about it from a survival point of view way back when. Let's say the whole tribe always follows the popular path to the river, but one day the river dries up. Now everyone's in trouble. But that one person, the one who instinctively thought, you know what, I'm going to go check out what's behind that mountain instead. Well, they acted as a kind of survival insurance. That trend resistor might just be the one who discovers a new spring, saving the entire group. Resisting groupthink made our species stronger.
Okay, so fast forward to today, the stakes are a little different. On the plus side, people who resist trends often report being much happier with their personal choices. They don't get FOMO because, frankly, they didn't want to go anyway. Their lives feel more intentional. But there's a cost. We're social animals, and trends create shared culture, inside jokes, and connection. If you're constantly opting out, you also risk feeling isolated or left out of the conversation.
And you know what? The research actually suggests there's a sweet spot. When studies look at life satisfaction, they find that people who practice moderate, selective participation in trends are often happier than both the people who reject everything and the people who adopt everything. It seems like the best path is to just join in on the things you genuinely find interesting and feel free to skip the rest.
All of this leads us to this really fascinating final idea, the freedom paradox. And it forces us to ask ourselves a pretty tough question. When we choose to go against the grain, are we making a truly free choice, or are we just performing a part?
And get this, mathematicians, yes, actual mathematicians, studied this phenomenon.
They created a model for what they called the hipster paradox, and what they found was that when a certain number of people all try to be different in the exact same way, say by wearing the same style of glasses and listening to the same obscure bands, they inevitably end up becoming a new kind of uniform. The very act of resisting conformity becomes its own kind of conformity.
So if that's the case, what is true freedom? Well, maybe it's not about automatically rejecting whatever is popular or blindly accepting it. Maybe true freedom is the ability to look at something and decide if you like it, totally separate from its social status. It's having the confidence to like a massive pop song without feeling embarrassed, and the self-awareness to skip a viral trend without feeling superior.
And that leaves us with one last, crucial question to ask yourself. Think about that one thing you refuse to do because it's cringy or too mainstream. Now imagine that tomorrow, everyone on the planet suddenly stopped doing it. It's not popular anymore. Would you still refuse? If the answer is yes, then your choice is probably authentic. But if the answer is no, you might just be letting the trends define you after all.